Okay, I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. I did want to thank everybody for joining today. And as a reminder, today's webinar is about the process and what it takes to convert from the Power BI capacity to the new Fabric capacity. And presenting today is Sarvesh and Nandini, and I'm going to hand it off to them. But as a reminder, if you have any questions, we have the chat and the Q&A panel. We'll be monitoring it throughout. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Sarvesh, Nandini, I'll hand it off to you.
Thanks, Chuck. And morning, everyone. Thanks for joining in. And today's webinar is around switching your Power BI capacities to your Fabric capacities and what does it take to actually transition your workloads between your two environments. And just to give you a brief introduction about myself, have a track record of over 5 years, and I'm one of the primary data architects at AVASOFT, and I lead the Microsoft data practice over here with Nandini.
Hi everyone, and I'm Nandini. I'm the Microsoft Data Practice Head at AVASOFT. I oversee the entire lifecycle of Microsoft data projects from the initial pre-sales through successful delivery.
And just to give you a brief introduction about the company, we at AVASOFT are committed to delivering AI-powered digital transformation solutions and strategy planning solutions to everybody across the globe. And we are committed to delivering cutting-edge solutions and maximizing your ROI with all the digital transformation solutions and accelerators we have in place. And we're headquartered at Bluebell, Pennsylvania, and we also work across the globe in multiple locations, such as Ireland, States, Canada, and we have a massive offshore presence in India as well. So moving on to the actual webinar. So here's the agenda of what we're going to present over the next hour. Just to give you a brief introduction of what the process is. This is transitioning your existing Power BI licenses or your existing Power BI licensing model to your Fabric licensing model and reconfiguring your workspaces. This isn't an actual migration of data or existing workloads or existing components within Power BI. Power BI is an existing component Fabric. This just deals with transitioning your licensing or the change in licensing model and how it affects your Power BI environment as such. The second piece of it is understanding the timeline of when Microsoft came up with those communications and those best practice standards on transitioning your licensing models, understanding the benefits of transitioning between your existing Power BI licensing model to your Fabric licensing model, choosing which capacity and right-sizing your capacity for your organization, an adoption roadmap of what it would take if you were to implement Fabric as a greenfield implementation in your company, or if you do have existing Power BI workloads, what does it actually take from a roadmap perspective to migrate your existing workloads from Power BI to Fabric. And finally, we have a demo that pretty much showcases an automated methodology to migrate your capacities from your Power BI environment to your Fabric environment. And we'd have a Q&A session at the end where we'd answer all your questions and pretty much talk in detail about any questions that you might have on where this fits in your organization scale. So moving on, the why and what of why this needs to be done, of why we need to switch from Power BI licensing model to a Fabric licensing model. So all of this stemmed during early Q1 of 2024, where Power BI published an article that they're going to retire their existing Power BI capacity model or their licensing model. And as of February 2025, you wouldn't be able to purchase any Power BI Premium SKUs or Power BI capacities through Microsoft or through anybody else, or any license vendors or anybody else. So what that means is if you have an existing enterprise agreement with Microsoft and you had been using a Power BI Premium SKU, it would still work the same way and it still be in place. But post-contract expiry, you wouldn't be able to renew the same contract, but you'd have to put together a new contract in place with a new licensing model and work through with that licensing model for all your BI needs moving forward. And if you choose to wait, you only have 90 days before all your existing workloads are depreciated in your Power BI environment. Or if you did utilize Fabric workloads for a few tasks with your existing Power BI licensing, all of those would be depreciated and you only have a window of 90 days before you reconfigure capacities to the new Fabric licensing capacity as such. And here are a few key differences or differentiators between what Power BI Premium licensing models were providing previously and what the newly evolved Fabric licensing models provide right now. So the key differences being an entry price point where Fabric licensing was developed for enterprise workloads or enterprise organizations. So organizations with that were under mid-market or developing organizations did not have the luxury of purchasing a Fabric capacity, which Fabric did solve. The end pricing point for Fabric capacity, for Power BI capacities were $5,000 a month. But with the new Fabric capacities, you could pretty much get it at a quarter of the price with the same amount of flexibility and the same amount of functionalities that Power BI licenses were providing. And Power BI licenses did provide additional security and governance features, and it did provide support for larger data sets and higher refresh rates. But it also did provide access to free users to access your reporting workloads or reports as such, so that people can view them pretty easily and pretty freely without having a Power BI Pro license. All of that is carrying over to your Fabric licensing model, but it also comes with two advantageous benefits. One is, you could purchase your Fabric capacities as either a reserved instance or a pay-as-you-go model, which is you only pay for what you use, and that would help you cut costs from an IT perspective as well. And the second piece of it is it allows flexible scaling, so you can scale from one licensing model to the next. And it will also allow pausing your capacities and unpausing them when necessary. So all of that is now included in the Fabric SKUs, and it kind of mimics what compute entities we had in Synapse and ADF as well. And what I was talking about was the key differentiators between a Fabric licensing model to a Power BI licensing model. The key differentiators being, lower price points, lower entry price points. It comes with two different licensing options, a pay-as-you-go model and a reserved instance option. And it's also flexible, scalable. So you could actually mix and match different Fabric licensing models as such, or you could go with a reserved instance with a higher capacity based on your organizational workloads. So there's multiple options to it. And here's how a typical transition looks like. So, and a typical organization that has Power BI would typically use data flows and semantic models for their transformations and processing. And then their reporting workloads would exist in their paginated reports, their reports and dashboards where they might have alerts configured and everything else. So if you go through a manual process, you'd have to go through the tedious process of actually taking a manual inventory, which we'll touch upon in detail on further slides down the line. And you'd have to go through the process of switching licenses for all of those workspaces from your existing Power BI licensing model to your Fabric licensing model, configuring capacities for each of those individual workspaces, and make sure it works the way it's intended after the licensing switch is done. But in addition to that, Fabric also comes with far more advantageous features. A few of them being, it comes with its own Delta Lake or data lake. Fabric has its own data lake called OneLake, where you could upload all of your documents. You could make sure store all of your documents and work with that data. And there's no copy of your data that we need to have to work across all your multiple data workloads in the Fabric layer. And you only pay for a single compute to access multiple workloads behind the scenes. So if you buy one single Fabric capacity, that'll work with all your workloads that you wanted to achieve as part of your organizational needs, right? So what that means is you could spin up a data warehouse. You could do data engineering tasks, perform ETL or ELT on top of it. You could spin up ML models and AI models behind the scenes, work with forecasting based on historical data points that you have. You could pull data from different IoT devices, perform real-time intelligence options on top of it, and also set up alerts. If there's a rapid change in data and you want to be notified, you could do all of that in your Fabric environment, additional to your reporting workloads. And all of that is being governed by a single capacity and a single storage behind the scenes. And here are a few benefits of using Fabric. So Fabric has far evolved from just being a BI solution behind the scenes to now being an end-to-end analytics solution for different workloads that you might want to do, such as the previous use cases that I just touched upon, right? And with the advent of OneLake, which is a single unified storage layer for all your data needs, it eliminates data silos, it eliminates disparate data sources, it eliminates the need for different copies of data between different departments and different organizations. Maybe there's a parent, or a sister company that you own, or a parent-child relationship that exists in your organization, and all your departments and all your people within your organization can use one singular copy of your data that resides in OneLake, and they could process that data in any way that they see fit. And with Copilot being introduced last year, Copilot is now integrated with all of your workloads in Fabric, meaning if you wanted to actually have data engineering workload configured, you could talk to Copilot in just English, and it'd give you the code snippets that you need, or it would even automate that process behind the scenes if it's possible. If it's just a simple task behind the scenes, and it'll build up the task flow that's required for you to maybe send out an email to your higher executives after a specific process is complete, and it makes sure it automates that process through Copilot as well. The other added advantage is there are basic foundational models available in AI, which you could typically use for your forecasting needs. But if you also wanted to custom model your data and you're very heavily invested in your AI space, you could do that as well. The other benefit to migrating to Fabric is it's highly secure, and governance is made a lot easier with Fabric. Just because it now easily integrates with Purview, you don't have to scan your data every, as and when necessary. Microsoft Purview automatically scans it and provides scanned reports to you on who accesses which layer of the data, and it also provides, it also trickles down the sensitivity labels between your workload. So anything that carries any data flow that carries PII information can automatically be gauged and also be restricted or masked behind the scenes. And it also trickle down to all your workloads that you configure downstream to share the data to either the marketing team or the sales team and so on and so forth. Based off the licensing model that I just spoke about, Fabric is more cost effective because it's not just a BI platform. It's an intuitive data platform, and it all provides multiple workload options, multiple compute options for you at a lower price point than other tools out there in the market. And the other added benefit is, it's highly scalable. So if you only have a small amount of workloads in your company for Fabric, and you also wanted to start off really small, you could start off with a smaller capacity and scale as needed. So as and when more data comes into Fabric and then you wanted to automate those workloads, you could switch to a higher capacity based on that, and right size your capacity based on your organizational needs as well. And segueing from your cost effectiveness, here is a licensing picture about what were the pricing points initially with the previous Power BI licensing model, and what it now is on the Fabric licensing model. So all of these on the right side are reserved instance costs, which was the same previously. You had to commit to a yearly contract for Power BI premium licenses. A yearly contract with Fabric licenses would have similar costs as such. But if you wanted to go with the pay-as-you-go model, that'll be a 25% surcharge in the cost that's provided on the right. But if you're not using them as often, the cost would go typically lower, and you could pretty much decide whichever options that you want or whichever licensing option that your organization might need to pursue. The other added benefit or advantage is, you could start off with your F2 licensing model, which is the cheapest out there at the market, with like a down payment of $152, and that would help or that would unlock all the workloads that I spoke about earlier: your data engineering possibilities, your data warehousing possibilities, your data science possibilities, your real-time analytics possibilities, and all of that can be done with an F2 license at a smaller workload as well. And I'll have my colleague Nandini talk about specific journey options that you could pursue with Fabric.
So when we consider the types of customers who purchase Microsoft Fabric, they generally fall into three categories: a new customer, an existing Power BI user, or an existing Azure Synapse user. First, if you're a new customer without any data platform setup, you can directly jump into Fabric trial capacity and explore its capabilities. Later, you can purchase a paid capacity based on your analytic needs. Next, if you're an existing Power BI customer, you can continue using Power BI as usual. However, if you have a premium capacity purchased, you will need to reconfigure your workspace from this Power BI premium capacity to a corresponding new Fabric capacity. And if you're a customer who has Azure Synapse right now, then there are no changes since Synapse and Fabric are two separate services offered by Microsoft. You can continue using Synapse, and if you wish, you can explore Fabric's capabilities through a trial to see how you can integrate both of these and manage the experience better. So once you decide, you can migrate your Azure Synapse artifacts into Fabric, and then you can sunset your Synapse environment. To better understand the first two journeys, let's look at a roadmap for each of them. For a new customer without a data platform, we go through the 4 high-level phases. In the first phase, which is the foundation phase, you would analyze your business needs and you define a strategy, which should be followed by an execution plan. And then you will start by deploying your initial foundation architecture that would involve spinning up your workspaces and capacities. So once you have the workspace and the capacity in place, the OneLake will be automatically created and you can connect to your data sources and bring in the data. And if you already have clean data in your workspace, then you can try out the basic reports and you can provide insights to your users. So as an outcome of this foundation phase, you would have your infrastructure in place and you can also start off by providing initial level of insights from the raw data if needed. So once we have completed the foundation phase, next we move on to the creation of warehouse or a lakehouse. And then you would integrate the data quality and governance frameworks into it. And if you're planning for advanced analytics, then this is also the right phase to prepare for advanced analytics. And you can also expand your reporting capabilities by utilizing complex data models or complex visualizations that are present within Power BI right now. And as an outcome of this phase, you would also have a fully integrated warehouse or a lakehouse with improved data quality and a better and comprehensive reporting system in place. So once customers have established a reporting framework, they usually move on to an advanced analytics and AI phase. So you can connect your streaming sources into Fabric and store them in an event house, and you can visualize them instantly using the real-time dashboards that is in Fabric. So this can either be done in the second phase itself, but I would suggest to first utilize a batch-based refresh before moving into the stream insights. So Fabric also supports ML and AI components, and you can bring in machine learning models into the picture to perform predictive analytics. You can start off by implementing a machine learning model, and you can either do the full code yourself, but we also have the Auto ML feature, which is like a wizard-based ML model creator in Fabric that you can also use to spin up the ML model even quicker. And another feature that is very interesting in Fabric is the AI skills, which is like a chat-based interface that is already built within Fabric. And you can plug and play your data model and get your insights directly by asking questions to it. So as an outcome of this phase, you would have AI-driven insights, including predictive analytics that you built using your machine learning models, and you'll also have real-time analytics structure in place. So once you have all these 3 phases set up and completed, you will have your full data platform ready. And on top of that, you can continuously look at the workflows, optimize them, and you can also set up self-service analytics as a next step. So self-service analytics is where you can provide the data to your consumers and they can create their required insights on top of them using either the AI skills which we previously mentioned, or you can also use Copilot to create their own reports. And Copilot not only helps you create a report, but it will also help you summarize and gain quicker insights from the same report. And once you have all the basic data sources in place, you can start expanding into new data sources to find more insights. And this would obviously lead into a culture of AI, AI and data-driven innovation, and you can continuously improve on top of it. So in the previous slide, we were talking about what a new customer would be doing in each of this phase. Since Fabric has a lot of analytical capabilities already built into it, we'll also look at the set of components that you'll be enabling at each of this phase so that you have a clear understanding on how to plan your Fabric adoption. So in the foundation phase, you'll be setting up your unified compute in the Azure portal. And once that is done, you will have the one lake in place, and you can start by connecting your data sources through a pipeline to bring your data into the workspace. So once you have all your data, you can connect them to Microsoft Purview to govern your data better. And the data that is residing within your one lake can be used to create a separate data model, or there is also an automatic model that is created in the workspace for you. So you can use either of them and you can create a report at first level. So in the second phase, you will be integrating all the different sources and you would form a lakehouse and if needed, a warehouse. So most of the customers also form a warehouse on top of it. So this can also be done using either the pipelines that you created in the first phase, or you can also use notebooks and Spark jobs to extract and transform your data. Once you have all your data in one place, you can create domain or department specific reports, and you can also consolidate them as a dashboard to provide a single interface to your executive team as well. When you step into the advanced analytics space, you can utilize the event stream and event house features to ingest and store your data. And this streaming data can be visualized in the real time using the real time dashboards that is also available in Fabric. And when you're planning to go into predictive analytics, you would primarily be using the experiment feature and you would be creating the model. And you can also utilize the AI skills that we discussed before. So in the optimization and expansion phase, you would expand into new connectors to bring in new sources of data into the Fabric. And you also have the activated component that is available in Fabric, so which you can use to set up alerts and trigger automatic activities based on an event. And you have a ready to use Power BI app that can be downloaded and utilized to monitor your capacity consumption at feature level. And this would also show how much capacity units each of these features are consuming. And let's say if you have around 10 pipelines, it will also show you how much each of these pipelines are consuming. And based on this, you can also optimize your pipelines and you can right size your capacity based on the usage. So moving on to the second type of journey, let's discuss what you need to do if you're an existing Power BI customer with a premium capacity and you need to transition into Fabric capacity. First, you would start by taking an inventory to ensure you're covering all the workspaces and datasets. This is crucial because some customers may have multiple workspaces for production, QA, and dev, and some of these workspaces might be isolated and not in use. So these can be left out during the inventory phase itself. And there are two key scenarios that need to be considered during the assessment phase. So if you have a large semantic model in a Power BI premium capacity that is in a East US region, and you're having or you're setting up a new Fabric capacity in the West US region, the large semantic model in your East US region cannot be moved into another region. So make sure you account for all these during the inventory phase itself. And the second scenario is if you've already enabled Fabric features within your tenant and you've created few Fabric items, you cannot migrate those Fabric artifacts to a different region. So make sure you list all of these during the assessment and you plan the corresponding Fabric capacity properly. So once you have the complete inventory of the workspaces that need reconfiguration, you can start by setting up the Fabric capacity. Since you're enabling Fabric features within your tenant, it's essential to provide training sessions before or after the migration to ensure all your users understand and access the right features. If you prefer to control access to new Fabric features until proper training is provided, you can also disable them at a tenant level as well. So once we are done with the prep work, we move into a pilot level migration. And if you're an enterprise customer with multiple capacities, I would recommend picking one of your dev workspaces and running a pilot migration on it. So this allows you to validate the process and ensure monitoring is working correctly. So once you have a pilot migration, the next step is to prepare a proper cutover plan, because when migrating from Power BI to Fabric capacity, any job that is in progress will be cancelled and you need to restart them once the reconfiguration is done. So once you have the downtime finalized with your stakeholders and proper plan for the cutover, you can move all the workspaces from Power BI Premium to Fabric. And this can be done manually through the admin portal in Fabric, or you can also use the Semantic Link Library in a Fabric notebook, and you can move them through code as well. So as a final step, you would run precautionary checks and you will run the validations. And finally, you would also provide a training session to all your users so they understand the new features they'll encounter in their daily interface. We have a demo that shows how we reconfigure our workspace from a Fabric tile capacity to a paid F2 Fabric capacity using the Semantic Link Library through a notebook in Fabric.
In this demo video, we will walk you through the process of migrating from a Fabric free trial capacity to a Fabric paid capacity, F2, ensuring seamless continuity for business intelligence operations. The free trial workspace currently contains a set of published reports. Our objective is to migrate these reports from the trial environment to the F2 capacity while maintaining data integrity and accessibility. To begin, we navigate to the workspace license information, where we confirm that the current workspace is operating under a free trial license. The migration process is powered by a predefined set of scripts designed to transfer capacity efficiently. For this migration, we utilize the mSoFabric PYSDK core package, which provides essential functions and libraries for capacity management within Microsoft Fabric. The script authenticates the user through their Fabric account, retrieving all associated capacities. Here, we can identify both trial capacities and F2 capacities linked to the account. Next, we determine the specific capacities that need to be migrated and assign them to source and destination capacity variables. Following this, we extract all workspaces associated with the free capacity and iterate through each workspace in the trial environment, reassigning them to the F2 capacity. Upon executing the script, we refresh the page to validate the migration. The free trial icon disappears, and upon revisiting the workspace settings under license information, we confirm that the capacity has successfully transitioned to F2. Migrating to Microsoft Fabric optimizes data management, enhances analytics, and ensures security compliance. AVASOFT is here to guide you every step of the way.
That's pretty much it for this webinar, and we could open it for Q&A if you guys have any questions. See, Venu had a question before. If your data is structured at the source, is there any value in getting the data to the lakehouse, or is it better to stick with the warehouse workload? Our suggestion is if your data is fully structured, and if you want to expose it to your business analysts where they want to model it out a little bit further, you could utilize a data warehouse or a lakehouse component. But that's pretty much the value you're getting out of it. Our suggestion is you could pretty much put it in a semantic model in Power BI and have your business users access that semantic model downstream.
There's another question here. You had mentioned a trial. How long is that trial?
If you're using a Fabric capacity trial, you have 5 trials available in any tenant, and each trial is 60 days. So you have an FT1 capacity, which is equivalent to an F64 capacity, and each trial would run for 60 days each. And you have 5 trials available to use before you choose to purchase your Fabric capacity.
Okay, and then there was one more. Is there any type of disruption when you're going through this transition? Like what would need to be recreated or redone?
So if you had, so let's say you're switching regions between configuring your capacity. So if one of your capacities were in the East US region and you want to switch to a West US region or a Central US region, that's when you might have to reconfigure or reconfigure your specific Power BI workloads or Fabric workloads, because you cannot directly switch between different regions. So you might have to take a backup of your code components. So if it's a pipeline, you might have to script them out as JSON objects. If it's a notebook component, you have to take a copy of those Python notebooks, republish them back into your new capacity, make sure they work as intended before you close out the migration. So there are specific components where you might have to manually migrate them if it's in case of different regions. But if it's within the same region and you're configuring capacities within the same region, you wouldn't have that problem.
And adding to that, the only disruptions that you may face is if you have any active refresh jobs that is running during the time of migration, they may be cancelled. So you just need to restart them once the migration is done. Apart from this, there won't be any other disruptions or any reconfigurations that would be needed.
All right. And then there was one other question is if your source data is structured, do you see any value in getting the data to a lakehouse, or is it better to stick with the warehouse workload?
The best practice is to go with the lakehouse and then expose the data in BI with the semantic model. So a lakehouse in between will let any technical users outside of business users get access to the data from the source. And if they want to create marts on top of it for their own extended analysis, they can do that as well. And for your business user needs, you could have a Power BI semantic model that connects to the lakehouse to build the required business metrics on top of it, and then have them utilize the semantic model outside. So a lakehouse is the best fit and it's the best practice to implement in any organization.
Okay, and then there was a question that just came in where it says they have Power BI on Snowflake. If they have to purchase Fabric capacity for Power BI usage, then what about cost? Will they be paying more than what they were paying for Power BI licenses?
It depends on the use case that you're facing, Hemant. I know Snowflake is your warehousing layer, and Power BI is pretty much what you've been utilizing for your BI needs. It depends on the number of users that are accessing Power BI and the existing type of license that you have configured, right? From a holistic licensing standpoint, if you consider the licensing spend on Snowflake plus Power BI versus completely transitioning to Fabric, you would see lower cost in Fabric for sure. But it also depends on the existing number of BI users you have in your Power BI platform today and what type of licensing you have configured behind the scenes. So Fabric is an end-to-end analytics platform. So if you are doing your retail workloads in Snowflake, you can pretty much do the same thing in Fabric and utilize Fabric for your entire analytical needs for both your ETL and your Power BI needs as well. So instead of paying for two different platforms, you'd end up paying a fixed price contract for the Fabric platform.
Right. It looks like that is all of the questions that we had. I do want to thank Sarvesh and Nandini for presenting today. Just as a reminder for everybody that attended, you will get a follow-up email that will give you access to the recording as well as an overview of AVASOFT and a one-pager that is associated with the offering that we have regarding migrating your Power BI capacity to Fabric. And I also wanted to remind everybody to definitely check out our website for all of the great webinars that we have this year. We'll be doing over 100 webinars this year covering all the entire spectrum of the Microsoft ecosystem. So again, I wanted to thank everyone for joining today. Looking forward to hopefully seeing you back for one of our other webinars in the future. Thanks, everybody.